What is going on here? Welcome back to American Nostalgia Garage. The Camaro is currently on the ground because we got to turn it around, slap some quarters on this thing. Stay tuned. Ta-da! Boy, that was easy. Alright, well, as I mentioned in the intro, these quarters got to go away. They are crispy, to say the least. Going around the wheel wells. The lower portion in the door jamb is gone. They're not even attached to anything. I don't know if you can see the rocker moving separately from the quarter. So they're really not attached down there. They're gone. Every part of these is gone. I'm not sure what it looks like up here. I did buy full quarters, like OEM quarters, that come all the way up here, have the sail panel, even have the piece that goes underneath the roof skin to give you that flange to weld to. But first things first, before we can start cutting any of this stuff out or removing things, is we got to get our vinyl roof portion or whatever around the windshield out. Get the trim down here for the vinyl top and the windshield out. Also, the good thing about this is I'm going to delegate some of the responsibility to this guy.
I'm very excited about it.
This guy's becoming a permanent staple on this channel. But he does have his own channel. Go check it out. It's Automotive Chaos on YouTube. And, all right, now get to work.
We should actually show him the other first-gen Camaro that's on the property.
I don't know if you heard what I just said.
Are you deaf, boy?
The cool thing is, before we started on my Camaro today, we took his race car Camaro from a friend's house that he was storing it at. We picked it up, so it's outside. Maybe we'll give you a sneak peek. All right. Well, as Ryan pointed out, it's always a good sign when you are taking your trim out by removing the screws that were drilled right through it for sheet metal screws, which actually, I think they're wood screws. So I'm taking out the flathead screws that were holding the trim down. And the more and more that I do here, the more and more nervous I get about what's underneath here. How is the windshield channel? Because that's not just that easy to just replace. So I'm gonna bend and pry and break and get this thing out of here, and then we'll get a good look at. Oh, that's a hole right there.
This guy's bathtub must have leaked like a sieve because all of the caulk is around the rear window.
Didn't save any for your house in there, did you, fella? Oh boy. Okay, well, I don't know if that tells you anything. The screwdriver is inside the car. This is the state of the repairs that were done. This is years and years of just bad butyl tape and stuff just shoved in here to fix ultimately what was definitely leaking. See, there's a hole there, there's one up here. This, I don't know. It's not looking great, guys.
I just took rusty buckshot to the face.
Okay, well, you had that coming. Alright. Got it?
Where am I putting this?
I don't know. Alright, we're going to have the news broken to both of us at the same time. It's not good in here, guys. It's just not good. Got to get the rest of this original seal and all the butyl tape that was added out. And then we'll get a look at the whole windshield channel. All right, we got our vinyl top off, most of it, and we got most of the toilet and bathtub sealer out of here. What a mess, guys. I'll tell you that. What I will say is, I am actually delightfully surprised. Yeah, this is terrible. Don't get me wrong. It's not good. But like, really the top, this is the only part of the top of the roof portion all the way across that actually has a hole in it. So the top is really good. We're not going to get a roof skin for this. I'll just make a little patch for that. And then here, any spot that's rotted in here, and there is rot in here, is going to get fixed with this quarter, which we have. So we're actually probably going to use the entire sail panel on the new quarters. The only other concern then is down here. Got a hole there, got a nice big window right there, and it's just generally got holes in a couple of spots. There's a hole there. It just doesn't look good. But I just looked this up. This like filler panel, this deck filler panel, it goes, AMD sells it from basically here all the way to in here. It's like $73. So to solve all of these issues, rather than like try to patch this bad metal and it be bad metal anyway, this entire section is going to cost 73 bucks and some time to replace. So that's going to, all the rot down here is going to get replaced with a $73 panel for that. And anything that we're concerned in here is going to get replaced by our quarter. That side, Ryan was saying, is pretty good. And the top is really not that much of a concern, with the exception of like a one hole here. So we're in good shape. Okay, if you're looking at this and you're nervous, I mean, we're in good shape in comparison to what we thought we were going to see. It's not good, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely better than I thought it was going to be. And it's not going to cost me $1 bajillion. Probably going to cost me several hours of work, but we'll get it fixed up and it'll look good. All right, here's Ryan's Camaro. Now, don't get it twisted. I know from the one lug nut that's holding on this crappy wheel that you might think that this car is not much. But this car is awesome. He's got all this stuff cut out. He's going to put his fuel cell in here. The battery's going to go over there. He's got a lot of his fuel lines run, I think, if not all of them. He's mini-tubbed this car. Got a package tray that he made up there. The interior is race car, as race car as it gets. He's got the Cameron Johnson spring location kit in here. He's got an awesome steering wheel. He's got a Precision Performance Products shifter in there. You can see the gauges and stuff. One thing you might not be able to tell from looking at it is the firewall is actually moved back, I think, 5 or 6 inches. Look at that thing. There's like nothing up here. There's no cowl like our car has. But, and then I don't know if you guys can see anything that sticks out or stands out, grabs your attention. But, yeah, it's a big turbo LS engine, and this thing makes some steam. It's got to be retuned again once he's got some of the other stuff buttoned up, but this thing makes some power. If you guys like Camaros, judging by what we're looking at here, and I know this car for as long as he's had it, maybe pop over to Ryan's channel, which again is Automotive Chaos, and check this thing out. All right, well, we're going to start taking these quarters off now. I did remove the glass from the inside of the window so we don't destroy it. Maybe we can reuse it, save a couple dollars rather than wrecking everything. I got the regulator out also. What I'm going to do, because we're not saving anything really, is I'm just going to get a good portion of this quarter out of here and just cut a window in here. I'm taking it all the way into the door seam so I can actually scribe a line in here. If I'm real careful with a cutoff wheel and don't go too deep, I should be able to make sure I don't touch the structure that's behind here for the latch. So inside of here, there's a structure for the latch. So whenever you're cutting something like this, or anything where you don't know what's behind it, you never really want to sink your cutoff wheel or your blade into the metal. You just want to cut it as deep as it needs to, the wheel needs to be in order to cut the metal, and that's it. If you keep going super far, you're going to start cutting things you don't want to cut. So I know that there's a structure in here. I can cut in here and not disrupt the structure. I may just cut here just for now, so it's more manageable, but I'm going to cut a window in this thing so we can see inside. Also, there's some structure where the rocker and the bottom of the quarter on the inside get welded together. So let's start cutting. You guys win. I'm tired of getting yelled at for not wearing goggles. Now you look at that back of the quarter there, and it's actually all pretty good steel. The problem is that on the inside, everything else is gone, and it leached into this quarter. So, but here's a look of what we're talking about inside. Here's that inner structure, which mounts to where our striker plate, whatever, goes. Here's the structure we replaced on the inside because it was rotten. This is the flange for the wheelhouses. These wheelhouses are getting replaced, inner and outer, so we don't have to save any of that. We're going to cut it. The flange that the quarter was holding onto is right here. And you can see where I moved the rust and dirt away. It's all rotten down there. And this is the inner rocker. So before I cut any more of this out, I'm going to have to do something with what is going to be our rocker replacement. We have the inner rocker in place already. What I did, it's already sitting here, is I made a little stanchion for our square tubing that we use to box in our car here. And I'm just going to weld this down to the inner rocker that's staying because it's brand new. And that way it'll hold the inner rocker up so that when I cut all this stuff loose, that it's not just floating in space here. Because if it, you know, drops down when we cut it all off and everything gets relieved, then we have a problem because we don't know what height to bring the quarter and what height to bring the rocker back up to, and everything's going to have moved. So basically it's just, you know, to make sure that we don't lose the rocker on the bottom end when we're ready. Also, if you're wondering why I didn't just cut the whole quarter off like all in one shot, is I need some of the stuff to stay here to establish where our new quarter is going to go on. Yeah, obviously it can't stay there and be in the way for the new quarter, but I need some of this stuff to be here so I can reference it where the quarter is going to get, like where it's like going to register on. So like I'm keeping the top of the window here because I want to make sure that the width of the window stays the same, so that I don't make the window frame this wide. And I also want to make sure the top of the quarter comes to where it was supposed to, right here. And then I want to make sure that the door jamb stays in the same spot. The wheel arch, believe it or not, I have a little bit of room I could probably move there. But some of these definite points, like where the top of the quarter and the window go, are all going to register where the doors and stuff go. If you don't do the stuff in here properly, or back by the tail panel or any of that stuff, then you could have a jalopy looking car. Not that you want to make mistakes anywhere, but you really don't want to make mistakes in these areas. Up here there's a lead seam, and our full quarter comes across the top here and goes up to that lead joint. It's pretty solid up here. I don't know necessarily that I want to get too much into that lead joint. What I'll say is, just so I know where I'm going to cut before I start making fumes in here, lead fumes, is a good trick is take anything that's sharp just to find where your lead spot is. I actually already did it here. Take a screwdriver or something sharp, and as long as you're replacing all this stuff, it doesn't matter, you're going to body work it, whatever, but you take something sharp and you're going to cut your car now. So you can feel it's hard, and it's soft. I'm into a soft spot right here. You could just tell by the way it pulls down. Like that's the lead joint right there, and it stops right there. So literally the lead joint's right there, and our lead joint is literally right in here. It probably goes this way, but that's our lead joint. So when I'm cutting, I'll just cut below that, and then I'll work my way up to it and get all that stuff out of there when I'm ready. But just a way to be safe. Alright, so we're all welded in. Now it's got a lot more strength in it than it did, and we're not going to lose the back of the rocker when I cut the bottom of the quarter off. This is the lower part of the quarter here, and this is the flange I was talking about that gets welded to the inside of the rocker. And you can see this was actually never welded when it was replaced, which explains why the inside of the quarters that I cut out earlier looked as good as they did. Also explains probably why all this stuff rotted out so badly, is because if this wasn't welded, then everything that got in there got trapped in there. On top of the fact that stuff naturally gets trapped in there anyway. And that's how this happens. Bad repairs. We ain't doing it again like that, so it'll get fixed this time. We're also going to do the inner and outer wheel tubs. We're not doing them right now. We're not even going to do them on this video, but I am going to, while I had the quarter off, make some cuts around stuff that I would normally have to cut out, like with spot weld cutters from the inside. I'm going to cut it off here just to get out of the way. So I know, instead of hunting for the spot welds, I know exactly that this piece lands right here. And I'll get rid of the rest. But now it's just a game of where do I cut next and what do I take out next, and you know, just keep going until you got most of it out or all of it out, and that's the game we're playing now. So, you know, let me make my 15th way around the Monopoly board with this car, and I'll bring you back when I got something sizable to show you. Alright, we're outside now because I want to show you guys something. I want to play a game of one of these things is not like the other, except it's opposite day. So we're going to play one of these things is exactly like the other. Tell me what you guys see here. I should play the Jeopardy theme song right now. Do, 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 do. Okay, the answer is I have two of the exact same quarter panels. Which is annoying because I just waited like 3 weeks for these things. I ordered them from a local sheet metal guy who I actually like a lot. But he never really makes me any deals, and this has happened before. It's my fault because he dropped these off one day in a snowstorm, and then I sat them outside the garage here, and they've been sitting here for like the last couple days. And I'm just now that I cut the driver's side quarter panel apart, as you guys saw, I'm just realizing now that I have two passenger side quarter panels, which is really cool. So here's the extent of what our driver's side quarter panel is going to be like for now. I've got to wait until I get the other quarter panel now, which now he's telling me it's not going to be the same 7 to 14 days, which I think is just a ploy to make me feel better because I'm pretty annoyed, to say the least. So now that I have 15 of these quarter panels to basically change on this car, I am going to start cutting this side, which is great because all I want to do is take as much metal out of this car and not put any back. That way, you know, if I put a Briggs & Stratton 2-horse in this thing, it would fold this thing like origami. At this point, this Camaro is basically made out of paper mache. There's nothing holding this thing together. All right, take two. I guess we're cutting this side now because we have 10 quarters to put on this side and none to put on the actual side that we started on. So I guess we'll just start cutting here. It's like it has a mouth. Clearly I elected for the do a little bit at a time approach, which was cut the entire quarter off in one shot. So, whatever, we're here. It's happening. I don't know if you can tell, this quarter is also bad. Stuck on by a thread down here by the trunk drop off. So just use whatever tool you have nearby. In this case, there you go. And just like that, it's off. This side is pretty toasty. We got some more stuff to get back up here. Here, obviously, down by the taillight panel, around by the door frame. So probably need to drill out about 7,000 spot welds. But I did save a lot of drilling spot welds out by cutting it off like that. And luckily, because we need so much sheet metal on this thing, a lot of stuff's just getting chopped out. We're not going to even use a lot of this metal. So we don't need to drill out any spot welds because the two pieces that are spot welded together, per se, are both getting replaced. And I can say that as a blanket statement because this thing is terrible. All right, so why am I leaving the trunk on? Mostly it's because I don't feel like taking it off and I don't have any place to put it. But it's also because I know when I put my quarter back up that it's supposed to go back to where this trunk was because it fit good before we started. This tail panel is also getting replaced, so I'm not real worried about that either. And that is going to be, the tail panel is going to be dictated by where the quarter goes, but right now it's the opposite. So basically the quarter is going to go to the tail panel, and then when the tail panel comes out, the tail panel is going to go to the quarter, if that makes sense. So the new panel is going to the old panel, and then once the new panel is in and located, the quarter I mean, then this tail panel later on when we go to replace it will locate on the quarter, knowing that we made sure that we established this point and it stayed the same. Again, which is why this trunk is still on. We're not using this trunk because it sings opera. It's got a mouth. It's like Potsy from Happy Days. So I'm leaving this trunk on so I know I can keep this body line and this gap between our panels the same. My quarter is going to go back. It's going to establish a point on the trunk that's existing there. And right now I'm just cutting everything back. Trying to stay away from this lead joint up here. But one thing I wanted to mention is we're getting inner and outer wheelhouses. So I'm actually going to cut this out of the way now. So I'm not fighting it when I put it back on. And then I'll go back and get all this stuff off also on the front. So let's cut this off. What I'm actually going to do is just cut around here. And then just cut a long line this way and get a big chunk of it out of the way. This flange I'm not worried about. It's not going to stop me from doing what I need to do right now. Later on when we go to put the wheelhouses in, then we'll worry about that. Alright, I got it to a point where the quarter kind of goes on the car a little bit. What I will say is I can't get it any further fitted with this piece in the way because they can't occupy the same space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this window opening in like a couple spots here, 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 and towards the back, just to get a width. So I know, you know, whatever, it's 1.25 inches all the way through. That way I can make sure that when I weld my stuff in, that it's still the same width. That's important. But once this is out of the way, then, you know, these pieces aren't going to fight for the same space because there's a flange on there. It's not one of those things where it can cap over, especially on this part. Sometimes you can lay the body panel over another piece and get an outline, but that's with pieces with so many contours and different things going on, you can't do that. So I'm actually going to do this with a square, only because I can literally take the square and run it all the way down like this and get a measurement. And this needs to be at almost pretty much exactly 1 inch. I mean, it's 1 inch all the way down. So I was going to actually mark it off with a Sharpie just in case it wasn't, so it would be easy to gauge, but this has got to be 1 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write that right here. Look at that chicken scratch. What does that even say? And I wrote it. All right, I'm going to get that piece off of there. Probably try to fit this thing one more time today. And then we're going to call it a day because I am an absolute icicle. And do you know what it takes to freeze over like a body like mine that's made out of just chocolate pudding and egg yolk? Last one of today's activities is going to be drill out all the spot welds and get this skin off of the car. And then we're going to call it for the day. Might have to do some fixing of the structure behind, but let's get this off. Now, I'm not going to make you guys suffer through watching me drill these all out, so catch you in a minute. All right, here's where I'm going to cap it for today. Quarter is mocked in place. Pretty happy with it. It's still got to be moved forward a little bit, actually. A little easier to see there. You can see the trunk is not exactly lined up. But the quarter does have to go forward in every spot. So it's not that it's stamped poorly or whatever. I don't know, it's probably not perfect, but you can see, you can see it's got to come forward just a little bit. Once it comes forward, all of these spots, because they're all consistently behind, so once the quarters move forward, all of them should be in the right spot. So I'm pretty happy. I'm going to call it for today. It's late. I am frozen, and I'm hungry, you know? So I'll catch you guys in the morning. All right, I worked on getting back the vinyl top so I can melt out our lead joint that's in here. And it looks like I killed a Muppet, just in cold blood. Muppety.
I think it's a Muppet.
And so now I'm clear. I can fire up the torch, melt this lead out of here, give myself as many carcinogens as possible, and then maybe we could put the quarter in. You guys guessed it. Ryan's here. Automotive Chaos.
Against my will.
Just keep working. Just keep working. What Ryan's working on is the taillight panel. What he's going to do actually is he pulled the taillight out, which is worth nothing because it's crusty and terrible. He's actually going to cut this down here and get this corner out of our way. We're going to leave this seam right here so we can locate the new seam in that area. Now again, we're not going to weld it back because this taillight panel is actually going to go, but at least it gives us again our reference point. So we're going to keep that. We'll get rid of this gutter so it's not in the way. We're going to have to get new gutters too because they're pretty rotten all the way around. So thank God I got help because you know, there's a little bit of work to do, I guess.
A little spray wax, I think you're probably good. I think you're making a bigger issue out of this than needs to be made.
This, yeah, essentially what he's saying is that this car belongs to Hollow Man. Kevin Bacon, you got to answer my phone calls, you know? Just call me back. All right, we got the lead all melted out of it. You could see the 4,000 spot welds that we got to drill out. But now we can get the rest of this quarter out. I don't know what we're going to do in here, but at least we can get this piece back out, and we're ready to pretty much put that other quarter back in. All right, we got a little bit crazy and started getting ahead of ourselves, and I wanted to show a couple of things that are pieces of information you might want to know if you were doing a quarter on your Camaro, and they're pieces of information that you can't find anywhere on the internet, really. I couldn't find anything about this, and I searched. The quarter goes underneath the roof skin here. It slides under, and then there's a part of the quarter that actually extends pretty much like all the way up to here. I actually have a line, you can barely make it out right there. It extends all the way up to here. Well, there it is. That flange. And I know that because I referenced it off of our new quarter. So anyway, what you need to do in order to get this, because there's spot welds all the way up here. Now how do you do that with the roof skin in the way? Well, you actually have to pull the headliner out from inside, and then there's a panel inside that you've got to drill those spot welds from the inside. Let me show you. So there it is, up there. You've got to drill the spot welds from the inside. I don't know if you can see that. See them all the way at the top? I only have two hands, but you have to drill those from the inside. The other thing that you can't find on the internet, and I know I can't be the first person that was confused, this part of the quarter, this little sliver that's still here, believe it or not, it actually spot welds inside of there. Now, I didn't know that. You guys might be saying, all right, dummy, I knew that, but I didn't. So I actually found out the hard way. Well, I guess not the hard way, but I found out now, and I'm doing it. And what I'm actually doing is taking a cutoff wheel, because you can't get a spot weld cutter in there. I'm running the cutoff wheel inside and then just walking it back and forth until I fatigue the metal and get rid of all the metal on top so I can pull it out. A couple of pieces of information that if you're doing this for the first time that you might want to know. And you can't find anywhere except right here and on Ryan's channel. But, you know, just those two places and that's it. All right, quarter is mocked back in place. This is basically, it's going to be its living position It does have to come back off, get sanded back, so basically we're down to bare metal. Weld through primer, all the holes punched and whatnot. But this is where it's going to go. This was right here, this transition from the quarter where the gutter is for the trunk, the deck lid, to the existing deck filler panel. This was something we were trying to make sure we got right, because it basically dictates how far or back the quarter is. Obviously this is super important, and the door jamb is super important. So we got all of those where we want it to be, and I'll be honest, it's like a beauty in the eye of the beholder thing. Aftermarket sheet metal doesn't fit great. This fits pretty good, but basically if you go into this knowing that they're not going to fit great and you're going to have to mess with them, it ain't that bad. We're not welding tonight. It's late. I want some din-din. I'm sure Ryan's hungry too. He's earned his vittles tonight. So that's going to be it for tonight. Catch you guys in the morning. Good morning. We are cracking on with this quarter panel. Let me show you what we're doing now. So as you can see, during this thing's life at the bottom of the ocean, it's missing some stuff down here. I don't want to buy this whole panel, and I don't want to wait for it. So we're going to just recreate the bottom part that we need, which basically gives you a tab to weld to the rocker, which obviously we're getting rid of this rocker, but we need a tab to weld our new rocker to, and we just want to finish the bottom of this generally. So let me make a couple of pieces to fill this back in, and that'll be that. I am far from a expert metal worker, or even an amateur metal worker for that matter, but I'm not afraid to try. So anyway, we've done a lot of it before. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make this out of a couple of pieces. You know, it's contrary to popular belief, when you make sheet metal replacement panels, if you have to make something, it doesn't have to be made in one piece, guys. You know, you can make it in a couple of pieces if it's more manageable. You can't bend it, let's say. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, so here's what is left of our existing piece. Not much. To be quite honest, I probably could just do it entirely without this piece. The only reason I'm using this is because this actually gives me the height of how tall it was. Obviously, when it snapped off, that's what was left. I'm going to basically cut like a rectangle. It gives me a little bit of space on each side. I don't know, something like that. Alright, so now that I got just a general shape cut out, I'm making it at a 16 gauge because that's what this is. And this is a reinforcement pretty much for the quarter panel, so it's got to be something a little bit thicker. I'm going to place it on the flange where it's got to be welded and just get like a general like width for how big the flange needs to be. I'll probably... That way I know if I bend the metal, that's going to give me approximately that wide of a flange to weld onto this rocker. I might go a little bit thinner just because the other rocker might not have as much space, and because I really don't need that much real estate in order to get a couple of spot welds in there. But like I have an idea, and what I'm going to do is bend this up so we'll make an L, and then the other thing I might do right now is trace the inside of this so we know we're kind of making this shape. You know, something like that is sort of what we're making. Now I can go bend and cut this out. Alright, so I made our patches out of 2 pieces. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place each patch where it goes. I'm going to kind of like naturally let it fall down to where it touches the rocker, and then I'm going to weld them in. So that's that, and then there's the side piece, same thing. I'll let it kind of fall down where it naturally touches the rocker and then weld it in. Now, I welded these outrigger pipes, these square tube down to the rocker earlier to hold our rocker in the right height. So I know it's going to be where I want it to be, so that this height will be correct. That way when we put the new rocker up to it, that I'll be able to get the spot welds into it. And I already drilled the holes in it for the spot welds that'll be inside the quarter. So we're ready to weld. All right, got the quarter where we want it. Seems to fit. Our brackets are going to work that we welded in on our reinforcement. I'm happy with where it's going to go. What we're going to do before we actually weld it is we are going to take off the rest of our outer rocker, especially because we have those outriggers now. We're not really relying on that outer rocker for any strength like we were. So we're going to pull that out. That way we can kind of get a ballpark for the height of our rocker back there, try to emulate what we have, because if we're going to weld this quarter on, that's basically going to decide where that rocker, the bottom of the rocker goes, because you can only move this quarter panel so much once it's welded on. So I don't want a scenario where I go to put the door on and the body line, the gap underneath the door is super tight in the back and loose in the front on the door to the rocker, because the back of the rocker got pushed up too much and welded in, or it was too low, you know, or vice versa. So I want to get the rocker mocked on there, and then we'll go back to our quarter. So we're kind of playing back and forth here. All right, we got our rocker in place. We mocked up our quarter. We got it to a place where we kind of like it. Seems to fit good. We're going to throw the quarter on, and we're going to start welding. We got the quarter all drilled out and weld-through primer. There's about $600 in weld-through primer on that quarter, because you know how expensive weld-through primer is. I knocked back all the loose rust that was in here and down there with a wire brush, and then we rust reformered it, so you can see it's a little bit black. It's basically so that this doesn't rot again. Now we're going to shove this quarter on and get it positioned and start welding. All right, we got our quarter on here. It's not welded fully because there's some panels that we're changing. So we got this welded in here. What we left, this is not getting welded because we're changing the deck lid. So that's just in the breeze. We did not weld in here, but we did throw the window in just to make sure that the gap would be correct. We threw a self-tapper in here because the tail panel is getting changed. And all this is out, you know, because we wanted to make room. So basically to still be welded is down the windshield, the deck filler, the tail light panel, and then obviously the underneath. So what we're working on now to finish up this side is we're going to put the outer rocker on. Ryan is working on the structure that goes inside, the reinforcement that goes inside the outer rocker. We spent a crazy amount of time trying to fit that. We got it finally in a spot that we kind of want. I did speak too soon when I gave this quarter props for being pretty close and fitting well. Down here in the dog leg, I had to slice it and pie cut it so I could bend the dog leg down to where the rocker is going to be. So, you know, still not a huge thing. It took 5 seconds to do that, but, you know, that's one spot that it didn't fit well. So, anyway, we're going to work on getting the rocker set up and ready to be installed. And then we're going to weld that in. And then we're going to call it quits. Ryan has created himself a fort inside of our Camaro, which is fine because he can have it if he's willing to go inside of it like this. Anyway, we've got our inner rocker reinforcement brace, whatever thing, covered in weld through. We've got it clamped in the position that it's supposed to be in. Ryan's going to do the honors. I trust this man with a welder. Maybe don't trust him with anything else, but I'll trust him with a welder. So I'm going to let him weld this in, and then we're going to get this rocker installed in the car. Well, just checking our work. Obviously it's plenty strong. We welded the pinch weld on the inside of the car, inner and outers together. You guys saw us do the dog leg. One thing you didn't see I want to show you is this. This is inside the quarter panel. There's a flange on the quarter panel that has to go to the rocker. So that's got to get welded in, and then you can see my braces there that I made. So that's got to get welded, and that was really fun trying to feed my hand through the hole right there and then stare through this thing. and I'm blind now because my auto darkening helmet, when I looked down there, I guess the sensor was blocked, and it wasn't auto darkening, wasn't doing anything actually. So we did the best we could. It's attached. I would have loved to have showed you guys the other side quarter panel, but that's not in the cards because we have 9 passenger side quarter panels and no driver side quarter panels. As you guys saw earlier in the video, I got 2 of the wrong side, or 2 of one side and none of the other. So rather than, wait, and it's the same thing, but rather than wait and, delay putting this video out, we're just going to put it out as is. Again, it's the same thing side to side, so you'd really be just saying it twice anyway. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching it for entertainment value. Maybe, just maybe, you learned something on how to do a quarter panel by watching me fail at it. Well, not really, it's on there. But anyway, as always, I appreciate you guys watching. Please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. And most of all, the real hero here is Ryan for sitting through all of my shenanigans and helping me work on my car. So please check out his channel. It's Automotive Chaos. And as always, thank you guys for watching. American Nostalgia Garage. Out.